This show featured Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, a WWE Championship match. But more importantly, it was 20 years ago. But even more importantly than that, was the show any good? Let's find out.
Hey, welcome to KocoSports.net or KocoSports.com. It takes you to the same place. It's where the world comes to kick ass, your home for combat sports, and above all, where it's okay to be a passionate fan.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this. This is 20 years ago. This is your review for Raw, September the 6th, 1996, September the 8th, 2016. As of recording this, obviously it's 20 years ago, so I'm reviewing a show from then. The show I'm reviewing is a special Championship Friday edition of Monday Night Raw, and then we'll be going back to where we were. That'll be September the 9th. I'm going to be catching up with that, and I'm looking forward to this. I really, really am, and I'm looking forward to bringing you some Raws, some Nitro, some pay-per-views, but more importantly, I'm going to follow WWE in particular, because I'm going to follow them, and then when we get to, in a few years' time, it would be fascinating with the Attitude Era, because I can kind of relive my childhood again, and I think that'll be absolutely breathtakingly brilliant. So again, if you guys want to follow this series, make sure you have the W Network, starting from this show, that's September the 6th, 1996. You guys know when the next show will be happening because it will be 20 years ago. So it'll be very simple. Watch the show. So after this show, well, firstly, watch this show, September the 6th, 1996. But after, watch September the 9th, 1996. And then you'll know what I'm talking about when I'm reviewing. The show is only an hour long, which means I can hopefully get this done in a very short fashion. So I can move on to actually get some sleep, if that's actually biologically possible. But then again, as old Vinnie Mac, the toilet says, you can sleep when you die. That is a very good point. So, as I said, this is a Championship Friday edition. We have a video package highlighting Shawn Michaels versus Goldust for the WWE Championship later on this evening in our main event. Shawn Michaels, the WWE Champion. So you now know that Shawn Michaels, 20 years ago, was the WWE Champion. How about that? And I've forgotten just how awesome the intro was. It wasn't the Attitude Era awesomeness for the intro. That's just another level of awesomeness, if that's even possible. But this video intro was spectacular. I've forgotten how awesome WWE has always been at video packages. So whoever they have designing these, making these, really deserve to be on more money than what they're getting paid. I don't care if they're getting paid a lot. Sorry about that. They should be getting paid a lot more for sure. So let's get straight to it. So we have an Intercontinental Championship tournament. Okay, and we're having this tournament because Ahmed Johnson had to vacate the title. And I know everyone was upset about that at the time, I expect. I'm pretty happy about this because that means I have to sit for any Ahmed Johnson matches. But we do have a tournament. This is the first round. And our opening match is Psycho Sid versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley, now of the Triple H fame. Now, let's talk about Psycho Sid. So here's gimmick. It's a psychopath. Okay, he is Psycho Sid. He's a loony. He's a nutcase. He's a 7 foot tall, 300+ pound monster. And he's psychotic. He looks like a loony. The way his mannerisms are. He wasn't the best worker of all time. He wouldn't even be in the top 500 best workers of all time, if you ask me personally, especially after watching this. But he did his job. When you look at him, you think, hey, he's a psycho. Dangerous Dean Ambrose. There's nothing, Ambrose is meant to be psychotic. Well, he's not a psycho. He's meant to be a nutcase. And that he is getting better. He never used to be, but he's got a lot better at being different and unique. So, Ambrose could maybe watch some Psycho Sid matches and see how the way Psycho Sid moves. I know it's a lot different with the size, but, watch some of his mannerisms when he does the eyes like that. Like, oh God, he's a big scary fucking nutcase. So Sid hits a one-arm chokeslam, great height, and a powerbomb to get the win. Guaranteed. Pretty much a squash match. Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, comes out. He steals Triple H's valet, which is some random hot bird who came to the ring with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Sid advanced in the tournament. Triple H looked like an absolute jobber. I think, is this the time where he's getting punished for the curtain call? I think this is the time because I think the curtain call was a few months prior to this. Because I know he was meant to win King of the Ring in 96, but he didn't, and Steve Austin did, which was probably, looking back, probably the best thing that could have happened to the company. So Triple H doing the favors here. Psycho Sid advancing into the championship tournament for the Intercontinental Championship sometime in the future. They never specifically said. I'm not going to give it a star rating because it was a squash match, guys, but it was a decent squash. It wasn't like a boring, dull one, and it wasn't super quick. It was just, hey, look, you could tell watching it, and if you were watching it live at the time, you knew what was going on with the curtain call, you could tell Triple H was being punished. We'll move straight on to our next match in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. We have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Marc Mero. Brian Pillman is on commentary for this, and again, a loose cannon. He's out there, and even when he talks, you can't physically see the man. But by the way he's talking, you can tell he's a loose cannon. You know, something's not right up there. And I really, really like that. Mero, poor Mero. Like, Sable so overshadowed him. You know, he was the Intercontinental Champion, but Sable comes, and then he became nothing. You know, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Sable came, she got over sometime next year or maybe a year after. We'll just have to see with the 20 years ago. And we'll be able to see how fucking atrociously Mero was treated after Mero got over. Mero got over, and then Sable got over, and then Mero was just dropped to the right at the bottom. And then obviously he went through dark times. And now he does these awesome speeches. He goes around America and he does speeches to kids about, you know, what happened with his mum. And there's a video on YouTube. It's on DDP's official YouTube channel, in case you're wondering. And it really was an inspirational speech. And it kind of makes you realize, holy shit, you know, family is very, very important in this world. So yeah, so good for him, though. He knows what he's doing. And Austin, I mean, the technical work from Austin here blew me away. And obviously, I've seen lots of Austin stuff from like 97 to 2003, but I didn't really get to see much of his work pre-97. So this is kind of one of my first times of seeing it. I've seen one of his matches against, it was Steve Austin. I think it was Ricky Steamboat from WCW on like a 94, 93 pay-per-view. That was just a random one, because what I do at night is I fall asleep to the network, so I just put a random show on. Like I watched World War III from 98 from WCW, where Scott Hall, 97, sorry, where Scott Hall got the win. It was just a really random pay-per-view. I always watch random pay-per-views or I fall asleep, because sometimes there's a bad match which forces me to sleep, because my mentality is, as I said earlier on in the show itself, you can sleep when you die. So I kind of don't like sleeping, but unfortunately I have to, for everyone else's sake. Otherwise I'll be a Rudy, moody, groody piece of shit, honestly. But yeah, anyway, back to this. Austin's technical work here is absolutely fantastic. And I think the turning point for him, 97, SummerSlam, August, about a year on from here, where Owen Hart, rest his soul, God bless his soul, Owen Hart did that pile driver that broke Austin's neck. After that, he had to change his style drastically. It was no longer technical, it was more brawling. But you know, he's one of the greatest of all time. So I'm not going to take any digs at that. But wondering what kind of great matches he could have had if that injury didn't take place. But, you know, that's all ifs and buts and maybes. And you shouldn't live life like that. But I'm just curious to think, what if Owen Hart didn't drop Austin on his head? What would have happened with Austin? Would he have still turned to that brawling style? You know, because maybe in his mind, if he turns this style, his career will last longer. You know, that might be the way he thought. But it was smart for him to change his style, because obviously with the neck injury, he didn't want to really do that much technical work. But that's just a little bit nitpicky from me. Stone Cold Steve Austin hits the stun gun for 2 for a good near fall. Mero goes to shoulder block Austin, but hits the ref as basically he goes for a shoulder block. Rewind. Pretend that didn't happen. Pretend that was 20 years ago, because that was a joke. So Mero's in on the ropes. You know, they go like that under the top and hit in the shoulder. He does that, but Austin pulls the ref. So Mero does that to the ref, sorry. That causes a DQ. Mero gets the win. After the match, there's a big brawl. Mero will now advance. He'll face, speaking of the man, Owen Hart in the semi-finals of this tournament. So you have Psycho Sid in the semis. You have Owen Hart and Marc Mero in the semis. So we have one more spot left. That I think that'll be decided next week. This was a good match, though. I really did enjoy this, and I'm actually looking forward to Austin and Mero. I wonder what the payoff's going to be, and I'm actually interested to see the next week's episode of Raw to find out what's going on with this Austin. Because you got Austin, you got Pillman, you got Mero, kind of all in the mix there, because they're all kind of feuding with each other. So I want to see. Obviously, it's not going to be a triple threat, because that's before the triple threat era, kind of. You know, 97 when ECW did one of the first freeways, and that's to my my memory was one of the first three ways. I don't know if it was the first ever one, but probably first ever on like live pay-per-view or something like that. So yeah, good match, 2 stars. Maybe best match of the night, maybe not. I didn't particularly enjoy what's about to come now, as we had Mark Henry. He comes out 20 years ago. This man's still wrestling. Unbelievable. Henry's just coming off being an Olympian. Jerry Lawler, who's in the ring, he says at SummerSlam, Jake the Snake Roberts was annoyed at Henry because Henry prevented King from pouring alcohol down his throat. Because remember, at SummerSlam 96, King tried to make Jake Roberts down the jug of alcohol. Henry then says he did it because he hates the King and he's a good person. King then challenges him to a match. Henry says he's not ready yet. King then calls him a coward. Henry grabs him and accepts. So you now have Mark Henry versus Jerry Lawler. Yay! Like, you could tell just by looking at Henry that he was green as goose shit and he looked really nervous in this. And it's kind of like funny how far Henry's promos have come. Lawler is just so good at being a jackass, but I just didn't particularly enjoy this. I just didn't care about either man, but maybe that's just because of the way they're portrayed now. I kind of don't care. So if I take my mindset literally back 20 years ago, then maybe I would have thought of this a little bit differently. But the thing is, guys, is that I'm 19. I'm not even born before this happened. And Mark Henry's still not even wrestled, like still on the show. Like, that's just how long. Like, I can't picture Mark Henry wrestling as long as I've been alive. That's absolute insanity. Then we have Mankind versus Alex Porto. Porto is a local talent. JR makes this big announcement, which he's been plugging all night. He announces Diesel and Razor Ramon will be coming back to the WWF. We all know that this is going to be fake Razor Ramon and fake Diesel, which I'm looking forward to seeing again. I haven't seen that in a long time. But I think this was smart because this show took place on a Friday. So some people will watch this show who usually watch Nitro on a Monday, but they're thinking, hey, Raw's on a Friday, we'll just give that a watch. And then they find out that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who are on WCW, are going back to the WWE on Monday on Raw. They're going to think, fuck, I'm not watching Nitro, I've got to check out Raw. I can really see that strategy making sense. Obviously, the issue with that is when fake Ramon and fake Diesel are going to come out, you're going to piss them off. So it's kind of like what TNA do, where they do that cheap one-hit wonder rating like they did with Final Deletion, sorry. So it's kind of one of those things, but it was a smart idea. Obviously, it didn't work, but it's good to see, competition. That's just competition, just in its purest and rawest form. And I think this was absolutely damn brilliant. Mankind gets the win with the Mandible Claw. He is the number one contender for the WWF Championship at Mind Games. I'm looking forward to reviewing Mankind versus Shawn Michaels from that. I know that's a damn cracking match, and I haven't seen that in ages. Bob Backlund, he's in the ring. Backlund brings out Iron Sheik. Sheik waffles on about his WWF title run his title win, against Backlund, and how he respects Backlund. Sheik's music hits, and it goes to commercial. Okay, it cuts him off, and when we come back, it's announcements for the WWE Championship main event. So, Sheiky baby, I don't know what you were doing here, my friend, but whatever it was, you were cut off. You poor bastard. Sheiky, I love you, my son. WWE Championship main event, Shawn Michaels, your champion, defending against Goldust. There was a pre-recorded message from The Undertaker hyping his match against Goldust at Mind Games. So we got Taker, Goldust, Michaels, and Mankind at War Mind Games. And Shawn Michaels' pop here, guys, was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I knew the guy was over, but to me, like, this was probably the height of his popularity. This was mega over. And, at this time, Shawn Michaels would get any woman he wanted. Any woman he wanted. The women were going nuts for him. He advertised Playgirl, which was very amusing. But, this is two great wrestlers, and Goldust here is so underrated. I think now he's in better shape than what he was. But he's still an absolutely magnificent wrestler, and he really is one of the most underrated wrestlers in the history of the business, maybe. I mean, I say right now the most underrated wrestler in the world is Tony Nese, but maybe of all time. I mean, name me a bad Goldust match. They're very few and far between. He always goes out there and puts on a great match. So just take a moment, and if you're wearing a hat right now, tilt the cap for the old Goldust. And as Goldust heel heat's happening, which is a chin lock, Mankind has a scene behind the curtain. he is singing, "Oh, sexy boy, oh, sexy boy, I have a surprise for you." And he's walking, he's creeping closer to the backstage. Shawn Michaels hits a crossbody off the top. Goldust rolls through for a 2 for a fucking insane near fall. And then just out of the blue, there's a video package, okay, just right there after that kick out that promotes the Mind Games pay-per-view. It just cut and went to a Mind Games advert. As they come back, Goldust goes for a curtain call. Shawn Michaels flips out of that. He goes for a springboard move. He hits a moonsault off the top to get the win. It was weird seeing Shawn Michaels get the win with a moonsault. It really, really was. But Mankind comes out. He grabs Goldust. They go to double team Michaels. Michaels, though, rolls out of the way. Rolls out of dodge. Decent main event. Only went about 5 minutes. If they got longer, I know these guys could tear the house down, but they didn't. It was good enough. You got a championship match. You got what you asked for. You got a clean finish. You know, and you protected everyone. Goldust didn't look like a jobber. It looked like, okay, gave his best shot, but he just couldn't win it today. He had Mankind come out, get the heel heat by, teasing and lurking in the background. So you're getting his character over. Michaels looked strong because he beat Goldust and didn't get damaged. So you're teasing physicality, but you're not delivering yet, because you don't have to be physical every week building up. You should build up the physicality week by week so that by the pay-per-view, when they finally hit, you're like, yes, this is why I paid for this. Okay, but this was an okay match. Okay episode of Raw. A few squash matches. Good main event. I enjoyed Austin, Marc, Mero quite a bit. So this was a good show. Would I recommend you to watch it? It was only an hour in length. Take away the adverts, about 45 minutes in length. Maybe, if only to keep up with this show. If you're interested in this, you want to actually keep up with this 20 years ago, I say watch. But if not, I wouldn't bother. So that being said, this is OK from KocoSports.net. Make sure you check out Dave Koco's book in the link in the description box below. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at LK Wrestling. Looking forward to reviewing Raw from the 9th of September 1996. Make sure you all stay safe. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you all stay well. And from this Englishman, I'll be catching your asses down the line.